Do we have a motion to open tonight's Finance Committee meeting?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And so Wednesday, January 12th, 2022, 7 p.m. This is a joint meeting between the Acushnet Board of Selectmen and the Acushnet Finance Committee. Gentlemen, do I have a motion to open?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to start off tonight's meeting saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. As Chairman DeSroches stated, tonight is a joint meeting of the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen. We're going to discuss some budgetary guidelines for fiscal year 23 with the Board of Selectmen. Get any insight from them would be helpful, and any new information with regards to budgetary issues and personnel matters will also be brought up tonight as well.
Very good. Would you like to get an update on some personnel matters?
Yeah, why don't we start off with that?
Okay, very good. Well, we have Jasmine Benefito. Excuse me?
It's Benfield.
Benefito. Okay, very good. We just, back at our last meeting on, I believe it was January 5th, we appointed to the position of treasurer collector. And she'll be working with, so congratulations on that advancement. And she'll be working with Kathy Muller, who we remember was the previous treasurer collector, who's come on board as the, I guess you could call a consultant mentor. And we've come to an agreement on terms with her to do, help Jasmine out during the times of, different things. Different events that you're not quite up to speed with, I would say. And so she'll be stepping in on an hourly basis. The contract does go for a year, but I don't know if she'll be needed for the whole year. And so that's where we stand on the treasurer collector's position. As you well know too, we had some interviews for a town administrator position, which became open when Julie left back at the end of last year. We've had some advancements with one gentleman we put forward, Rick LaFond. And we have a conversation, or I have a conversation with him tomorrow to see how we're advancing. And we have an executive session and selectmen's meeting on Friday to see where we stand with that after our conversations on Thursday. So whether we have Rick on board or whether we're going to be going to Plan B. So that's what we're going to discuss on Friday. I think, who else was there? We still have the IT person that we need to advance. We have some talks with Nick and with Chris Oliver, who left also, and use him as a consultant if we need be. And that still needs to be more defined. We haven't really sat down and talked in detail about that. Just skimmed it over. And those are the only positions that we have open right now. We filled a part-time position in treasurer collector. We've posted for Jasmine's position as assistant treasurer collector, so that's out there for probably another month. And then we should get some resumes in and be able to hire someone at that time. So your office would be completely 100%. We hired in the the accountant's office, right? The woman started yesterday?
Monday, yeah.
Monday. And so as a clerk position, I believe. Yeah. So that office is completely filled now. So I think we're in pretty good shape. You know, the building commissioner withdrew his resignation letter, so he's staying on board.
All right.
And so we don't have to be looking for that position. So in general, we're doing pretty good, I think. as soon as we wrap up the TA position, that'll solidify everything and we'll get us going in the right direction.
I don't know if you gentlemen are aware, when we had our last Finance Committee meeting, we discussed what approach we wanted to take with regards to all the departments and when they would come in and present our budgets, what we'd be looking for. And the consensus was that we would ask for basically two separate budgets. One which would essentially be level service, and another budget that would provide essential increases that they're looking for with an explanation of why they want it or why they need it. So that's the approach we were going to take this year, going into fiscal '23. I don't know if you gentlemen want to add anything to that, or if you have any thoughts on that.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just say one thing. I really didn't want to speak tonight, but I wanted to offer my, I want to say congratulations, but appreciation for Chairman DeRoche, who really worked overtime during this time of transition, has really kept things moving on a day-to-day basis, working with Lisa, Leonard, and Mr. Gasper, who the Board of Selectmen we appointed as our point person on all financial matters, and I know he's spoken with you.
Yes.
But the work that these two gentlemen have done, especially during the holiday season, really is pretty remarkable to keep things moving. Our town finances is really where we make our bones in town. I mean, I think that's our bread and butter, and appreciative of all the work that you guys are doing, but most importantly, the work of my fellow colleagues, Mr. DeRoche and Mr. Gasper. So I just want to at least put that out on the record. One other thing we did hire is a consultant to work through the ARPA money, which I think is going to be really helpful to all of you to provide that level of assistance to the town administrator, whoever comes in, and but I think to the finance committee as well, because there's going to be a lot of money to work through, and I think we're prepared to handle some of the challenges that we have with the infrastructure we have in place. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Good to know. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Warner.
Thank you. And gentlemen, I know Mr. Warner's not going to say thank you to himself, but we're part of a team, we're a group, and Mr. Warner brings a lot to the table. It's a group effort. It's just something that we do. We dive into executive sessions. We don't always agree with each other, but in the end, we always come out with a resolution to the problem. So I think that's something everybody can be proud of, is that we work together. And we can agree to disagree, but we do it professionally, and we try our best to do it professionally. So it's not always going to happen that way, but Selectman Warner is a key component to the team. So, and I'd like to thank Ms. Fogg. While we're thanking people, generally speaking, I'd like to thank Ms. Fogg in the town accountant's office for the hard work that she's done, because we've had some employment issues with people that just took the job and didn't work out. Nick, that's taping tonight, he's our assistant town accountant. It's a team effort in that town accountant's office and our treasurer collector's office, and it may seem like things are a little bit bumpy, and things are a little bit bumpy, and the Board of Selectmen have taken on a little bit of risk with some of the moves we've made, but we're confident in those moves that we've made. So it's in the end, I think it'll all prove out to be successful. So we're all working together to make sure it is successful. So and as Mr. Warner said, thank you to all you volunteers in the FinCon. It's very important what you gentlemen and ladies do. We couldn't do this job without you, especially when it comes to preparing the budget and understanding the finances, and going to preparing ourselves for town meeting. It's really a whole team effort, and I think everybody at home needs to realize that just because there's separate meetings, we're always working as a team. So thank you.
Thanks for that, Kevin. Appreciate it. Does any of the finance committee members have anything that they want to address with the board while they're here? Anything specific from anyone? No. Okay. Kevin, did you want to get into any updated numbers that you might have available for us?
Everything being said tonight will be preliminary, but I have worked with Mr. Boucher and Ms. Hebert and Melissa Fogg, our town accountant, on some preliminary numbers, and it's looking like we'll have roughly $900,000 to $950,000 to balance the budget. If you look at the Prop 2.5 increase that we were able to do in new growth, we're looking at roughly $444,000 this year in new growth.
And we know that the only two revenue sources that we should be using to balance the budget is Prop 2.5 levy increase and a new growth number. So again, we've seen a high year of new growth. Last year, we've seen an exorbitant year in new growth. It was over the 700,000 number. So that's basically what I think FinCom's going to be looking at as a rough number to balance budgets this year. And unfortunately, if you want me to just continue going with some of the data.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was the number again, 9?
I'm saying roughly 9 to 950, and it's preliminary numbers. It could change by $25,000-$50,000. Finances haven't been completed yet, and all the numbers just aren't in right now.
Do we know what just the,
Based on Prop 2.5 levy limit and our new growth.
and how much would just normal contractual increases cost the town?
So normal, if you're talking everybody that's a town-wide,
Yeah.
salaries town-wide are roughly $15 million. So contractual issues, I don't believe that we're in a position, I don't believe it's legal for the Board of Selectmen to talk about contractual obligations right now.
What's on the table right now? Like, based on the contracts that we have in place, how much is that?
So they've all expired except for fire and EMS.
And the AFSMI, which is the town hall workers, police dispatch, yeah.
That was
Their
a
contracts end at the end of this year, or fiscal year.
So that's still looking forward to the budget year that we're preparing for. Again, we can't talk whether it's 2%, 2.5%, 3%, because it's illegal to discuss that number at this point, because we're predetermining the outcome of our negotiation.
I just wanna know what we know is in the books right now. That's all I'm asking. Like,
Mr. Gaspar? I did, before Julie left, she did give me an estimate, we mentioned around 15 million. She gave me an estimate of 13.9 million for total salaries of the town, school, everybody, all that. So you can take it from there if you wanna go add 2% onto that.
that's
That'd be like
perfect.
280,000, 3% would be, whatever that is, 360, and on top of that. So, so there you go, it's in above 14 million. So, and like Mr. Gaspar spoke, contracts still being negotiated on all fronts, all four of them. DPW, fire, EMS, which is, actually those contract negotiations haven't even started yet, but their contract ends at the end of this fiscal year. AFSMI union, and then the police. So
DPW.
And DPW. So all four union contracts being negotiated at this time. So.
If you wanted to look at, Sue, because I know you're a busy bee with the budget. You've probably done this in the past, because I've done it in the past as well, is you can look at all the salary line items and do your own math on what's what, and then calculate the 2%.
I just don't know what the contracts are, like, is it 1, is it 2, is it 2.5, is it 3? That's why I just.
That can't be discussed.
No, again, just wanted to know what is in the books. I'm not asking what's on the negotiation, but it sounds like
And
everything's up in the air.
And I also got a email from Dr. Paula Bailey saying they've started negotiations with the teachers union. So I don't know when that contract completely ends. I know they were working a year without one. And I remember last year the signs and that sort of thing around town. So they could be coming up also at the end of this fiscal year. So.
That's why I gave you the general number of 15 million. I like round numbers. It's easy to do math off round numbers, right? So, I mean, you can just take that number and roll with that number.
Well, yeah, if we've got 9 to 950 to budget, then it's like 40% is on salary adjustments, and it's, like,
Absolutely.
that's
Yeah.
the math I'm doing in my head. That's
Yep.
what I'm trying to figure out.
So I understand what you're probably doing inside your head right now, because that's what I do in my head. So, and then we have our fixed costs. If the chairman wants me to speak now on fixed costs, there's some generalized numbers that I've discussed with Ms. Hebert and Ms. Fogg on our uncompensated balances. If you look at the budget in the miscellaneous, you have compensated balances. You folks have seen all the interdepartment transfers from last year. We ran a deficit of roughly $21,800 in that line item that we have budgeted for $5,000. After speaking with the chairman of the finance committee and Ms. Hebert, that number needs to be up. Every year we have a deficit, but I did the math on our interdepartment transfers, and last year, again, it was a deficit of $21,800. We covered it through interdepartment transfers. So we're probably going to increase that number from $5,000 to $15,000 based on that number. So there's $10,000 there. That will probably be increasing that budget, left for discussion for the board at a later date. It's just something that we've talked about, something that I'll have a discussion with the board. And then if you jump to the insurance, which is another fixed cost, we have workers' compensation. We'll probably have to increase that by 10%. So you're looking at roughly another $10,000 increase there. And then under health dental insurance, after speaking with Ms. Hebert and Ms. Fogg, again, that number is probably going to be somewhere around a 7 or 8% increase. So I did a 7% increase, so that number will increase by $112,000 if we go with a 7% increase in health dental insurance. And we won't have those numbers in, and Ms. Ford can correct me, but those numbers, those two numbers, workers' compensation and health insurance, we usually finalize those numbers by somewhere around the end of February. We'll get notification from the companies, correct, Ms. Ford?
I just started becoming IAC. That's more treasurers are actually more involved in the date on that.
So,
I think it's around February, March.
yeah, so early March, I have a note right here from when I did discuss this with Julie. So early March, end of February, we'll have some final numbers on what our increases are in insurance, but preliminary numbers again, just to give the FinCom an idea of what fixed costs they're looking at tonight. You're talking $125,000 roughly, just in the insurance budget.
Just a question, there was one item you said historically we're under budget by 20,000.
Yeah, the compensated.
Why wouldn't we just budget it at the 20 if that's the average? Because we're still lowballing it. So-
Well, that's a discussion that we're gonna have depending on where we end up with funding. So once we work through all the budgets, it's something that's been underfunded, based
Yeah,
on
I
what.
guess the way I'm thinking about it, if we have something like last year, shouldn't we figure out what the right numbers should be? So then we
Absolutely.
can back into it?
Absolutely.
Like, I don't know that we necessarily want to lowball here, just because we needed to balance the budget.
I understand.
Like, I don't know, my approach is let's figure out what the real numbers are and
Right.
go from there.
We did that with snow removal several
Yeah,
years back.
exactly.
I think we budgeted 25, some Mickey
And now
Mouse
it's like
numbers that didn't even
150.
buy us enough salt and sand, right? And
Right.
we boosted it, I think, to 110. And I'm only going off what's up here, although I have it in front of me right there, but I know I'm pretty close. So
Yeah.
compensated balances, to Ms. Delgado's concern, $5,000 we know is not enough. And I told you that last year we had a deficit of roughly $21,800. And you all got this interdepartment transfers sheets from last year. That's basically what I went back and referred to, so I knew we would probably need to increase. So I'm saying take it to 15, because it changes depending on who's retiring, and that's based on sick buyback, and it's like $40 a day, depending on the union. That's usually where that money's falling from. So the $40 a day, if one person retires and they have the whole 150 days, that's the maximum amount they can accumulate. That's roughly, call it $6,000, right?
How about legal? How we doing with,
I think that's gonna be a discussion that the Board of Selectmen need to discuss when we get into this ourselves. I mean, I know that that's been underfunded. I think we've done some reserve fund transfers. I didn't look at my interdepartment transfers for legal for town council, but I think we're carrying $60,000 or $65,000 in that budget, and then there's, I think, $15,000 in land, court, in the legal budget. So
yeah, because I think we're gonna have some concerns with that, this year, making sure it's funded enough.
Absolutely,
we'll probably-
absolutely, and we are in numerous litigations, as you know, or may not know, but, Quarry has taken up some cash, on the legal end of it, so that does need to be looked at. And I don't know if Mr. Gaspar mentioned, but pensions are also another number, we'll go up about 100 grand
That's
on that
correct.
aspect.
That's
So we have
correct.
to contribute to the pension fund. So, there you go, there's some big numbers right off the top.
Just on what we just discussed, it's roughly $250,000. Between health insurance, fixed cost, pensions, if we go up 100, and then you have the compensated balances. Line item on the miscellaneous, if we're gonna try to fund that to a number that's maybe closer to the 3-year average, trailing 3-year average, you might call it 15, like I just talked about, or you might call it 20. We'll have to look at the 3-year trailing average, if that's what the FinCom would like us to do. Or if you want us to go back 5 years, we can surely track that back 5 years for what that line item has cost over the last 5 years, average that out, and say that's probably a pretty good number to go with moving forward for a budget. So, just fixed costs, we're right around that $250,000 number. From the, let's just call it $950 for now, it leaves us about $700,000.
That's roughly $400K for salary increases.
Again, that all depends on
I
what
said roughly, it's still down to, leaves us with 300.
so at 2%, that's 300,000, right? Double that, it's 400,000, right?
I went with an easy number of 400K instead of 420.
We've been averaging, we've done a good job, the Board of Selectmen have always done a good job since I've been a selectman. We were doing 1.5 for quite some years, and I think the last time around we did 2%, so we've been doing really good with our contract negotiations, and of course some of those negotiations, some of the little numbers in between, there's a little bit of manipulation of the internal factors of a contract negotiation, right? Longevity, things of the nature.
Steps.
So, and then you have steps, that's right, you have people progressing from one step to another, so those numbers, even if you use the 2% number, they can fluctuate plus or minus another 0.5% from that number. So it's a little bit of a moving target, and it depends on the outcome of our negotiations and how successful the Board of Selectmen are with the unions. And sometimes that's not always the easiest thing to do. And that number will eventually end up in front of the Finance Committee, and Finance Committee has to figure out whether or not they're gonna make that recommendation at town meeting to approve those negotiations, and ultimately it comes down to if that salary line item is not approved at those contract negotiations, aren't approved at town meeting, it sends the Board of Selectmen in that union, or all unions, back to the table to renegotiate. Ultimately, in the end, it's town meeting's vote that matters.
So, Mr. Chairman, just one other point that the board, we talked about when we were setting our tax rate, is we had a pretty lengthy discussion and asked to be taken into consideration, is that as we're dealing with the housing market, escalated property values, and the tax rate technically drops, if that were to, if these property values, if there's a bubble, right, that we gotta base our budget on, and we're not all forecasters in that regard, but I think it would be smart for us not to get starry-eyed with all this federal dollars and, all this new growth and all this stuff, and, I know we got some needs that we got to address, but I would argue like now's not the time to start spending, because we just don't know what it's going to look like, right? So just take that into consideration. And I don't think any of us would be hurt, our feelings would be hurt if we had to all sharpen our pencils after the first go around. So
I think I'll speak for myself, but that's definitely the philosophy I follow, and clearly the philosophy that I was trying to echo during the last town meeting. So, that was the main focal point, was we need to be, the budget that we present needs to be sustainable, okay? And my big concern is that we develop a budget that is not sustainable.
Right.
So, I'm in total support of what you're saying, I guess it seems a little bit, then help me understand last year then. Help me understand, because I thought that was the perfect opportunity for us to kind of slow down and revisit, rebalance, because a lot of stuff was being thrown at us at the last minute. And I felt extremely rushed, and I felt like we were moving too fast when we should have slowed down to figure out where the right place for the money is. We have CARES money that we don't know where it went, what's being spent on. We had a bunch of questions that we really couldn't get answered because the information became available at literally the last minute. So I'm struggling, and I'll be perfectly honest, I quit the finance committee after last year, okay? Because I was very upset, okay? Was very upset, and I didn't feel supported, in all honesty.
Fair point.
So, you know, to sit there and go through that and to hear that I apparently don't know accounting, I'll be sure to go back and ask for my grad degree back and all the money that I spent in grad school, undergrad, CPA license, for 25 years of doing accounting. And I apparently don't know what accounting is like, and when numbers go up, but apparently, you know, when expenses go down, that money can be spent someplace else, but apparently I was shortchanging the kids again. So I don't understand. So please help me understand, so I do not get equally frustrated this year.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm not even gonna try too much to take on that question, because you are an extremely intelligent woman, and I respect everything that you've done as a FinCom member. We all know the politics of things when we get to town meeting. I think from the Board of Selectmen's perspective, at least I'll speak for myself as a selectman member, what we hear, so you know, we were talking about contract negotiations, is what I hear a lot from our side is, but the school's given this, and the school's got that, and the school's contract says this, and so it makes it very difficult from my perspective when I'm negotiating a contract with my unions, and we're holding their feet to the fire at 1.5% or 2%, and something's being totally different happening on the other side. And I don't want to pin one side of town with the other side of town, but that's kind of where it went last year at town meeting. I think we're talking about the $391,000 that was increased at town meeting floor.
Yeah, which was a $900,000 increase to expenses, because when you have a $500,000 drop in a major line item expense, that money's going someplace else, right? You're spending it on services. So I struggle with the comment of we were taking services away. If we were taking services away, where was that $500,000 that didn't need to go to high school tuition anymore being spent? If it wasn't going back to services for the kids. So these are the things I'm struggling with. And you made one comment that, I hear you, the politics. Well, maybe that's my problem. I don't sit here as a politician. I don't sit here thinking about politics. I'm sitting here thinking about what's best for the town. And I mean everyone in this town. Not just the kids, not just the senior citizens, but everyone, because we all deserve a great town. That's where I'm sitting here. Maybe that's my problem. I'm not doing this for politics. I'm doing this strictly because I want to make sure that the town is being fiscally responsible with the cash that we're getting, because we're not, the members of this town, we're not wealthy people, right? So we got to be smart about it, or else we're going to end up in situations like other surrounding towns ended up in. And then we're going to be backpedaling, right? And that's where I'm coming from. And, you know, sorry, Dr. Boucher, this was not part of today's agenda, but.
Look, it's an open discussion. I think, you know, our finance committee, I think this is my 16th year going into this, or 17th, I don't remember anymore. We've always tried to err on the side of being fiscally conservative. And I think we need to, especially now more than ever, because despite the fact that our federal government is printing money like crazy, that's going to end at some point, okay? So, like Mr. Warner said, you know, there's an artificial, you know, surplus out there. But eventually, I mean, that's not going to be there all the time. So we can't count on that when we're looking at all these budgets. And all the departments cannot count on that as well. So everybody needs to be as fiscally conservative as they can. And it's our job as a finance committee to be the watchdog for the town. And that's for all departments, not just one. When we look at our budgets, we're not favoring one versus the other. We're just looking at the numbers. I mean, that's what we're supposed to do. Just look at the numbers and take everything else out of the equation as best as we can. Sometimes it can be difficult to do, but that's what we're here to do. And it's not easy all the time. Last year was a challenging year. We've had other years that were challenging too. And I'm sure this year is going to have its challenges because of some of the personnel things we're dealing with. But the Board of Selectmen has definitely stepped up, and they're taking on extra duties amongst themselves to be the town administrator while we don't have them. So I think that's a big task to take on. So we all need to work together collaboratively as a group right here. And I think all the departments, the whole town needs to work together and understand that we're not here to be the bad guy. We're just here to look out for everybody's best interest, all the taxpayers, not just a certain group, but all of them. And that's basically what it comes down to.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
couldn't agree more with your comments and Ms. Delgado's comments. And I try not to, as well as you try not to, Ms. Delgado, is to sit here as a politician or bring politics into anything. I always try to represent as just one plain guy, trying to do the job and represent the community as a whole. In fact, I've spoken in front of this finance committee several years back, and I said, if we don't think it's in the best interest of the town as a whole, then we shouldn't be doing it, right? And that's pretty simple logic. And I think sometimes people miss that. Common sense needs to be brought back to the table. It's a struggle. I only use the word politics because of the way I know the room when I get to town meeting. I know most of those people that are there that are regulars, and I can tell by that room when certain things are going to happen. And I knew based on what I seen and heard what was going on with the way that budget was being handled, I had a feeling, and that's why I was prepared when I said the numbers and I had everything because I knew where the money was.
I knew where it was going before I said the word.
Sure. So if I can just, to the Finance Committee, provide a little bit of insight that we've learned, I know I've learned as we've gone through some interviews with town administrator candidates. I think what was pretty incredible to me was to hear from a number of candidates, town administrator candidates, whose Finance Committee or boards of selectmen essentially outsourced their budget development responsibilities to that town administrator or town manager. And one of the things that we were very clear about in our interviews is that, in Acushnet, we've got a very active, engaged finance committee, very active and engaged board of selectmen. Some might look at that as more micromanagement, but I think it's all collectively we take our responsibilities seriously. And, I don't think we'd ever just say to a town administrator, hey, you go develop the budget and come back to us. We want to provide the blueprint, we want to provide the guidance, and I think as we're going through this process, you'll see a budget from the department heads under the auspices of the Board of Selectmen that reflect the community. Infrastructure, quality of life type of things, and Mr. Gasper's been talking about what do people care. They want to make sure their trash is picked up, they want to make sure their roads are plowed. We've got really good public safety entities. I mean, look what's going on with the testing that's taking place, right? So I think by and large we provide some really good core services to the residents, and that's we even said to the candidates, remember what the Patriots did when they ran the ball 45 times and still won a game, right? And that's kind of our approach. We want to just run the ball up the middle. We don't need to do any fancy schmancy stuff. We just want to provide a good product for the residents. And I think that's what you'll see as we're developing our departmental budgets and we present to you that, I think that's our commitment to you is we're not going to give you stuff, when we're asking for stuff, it's that we truly believe that's what's needed to serve the residents. We're not going to be asking for, all kinds of bells and whistles.
One quick question, if I could. Is there any, the town moving in any direction with regards to the unfunded liability on the OPEB, everything it was?
Yes, we, matter of fact, this year, trust fund was developed, and I believe about $400,000 was put into it. We had some misfires when I first got elected. There was some monies that were supposed to be put into the trust fund, and the rules or whatever weren't followed correctly, and it was kicked back, and that was about $350,000. And last year, I know we appropriated a town meeting $50,000 to be put into the OPEB fund, OPEB trust fund. And at the end, it could have been in September or so, I have the document in my office. I was required to sign it, and Kathy Muller advanced it into a trust fund. So there is about $400,000
Right now.
right now. Yeah, and our unfunded liability, well, you know, depends what track you look at. That's in the over 10 million, 11 million, 12 million dollars, 13 million. It fluctuates dramatically. It's all done, is it by actuaries? So it's, you know, it adjusts with people, but it is extremely, yeah, it's really unfunded. And that's something that we've either put $100,000 a year into it. Last year we put $50,000 into it. So that's a number that the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen can decide on how much you want to put in. You know, whatever you think about it, as far as the OPEB goes and how it works, I think it helps our credit rating to contribute to it every year. $50,000 to get to 14 million. That's quite a few years.
Yeah.
You know, maybe 100, maybe 120. I don't know. I have to have a calculator here, but point being is contributing to it does help my credit rating. It does put us on a path. That money does compound interest in the funds. It's a slow hike. We're not. Everybody's behind. I don't know.
We're not gonna get penalized, right, by the state?
No.
sir.
What's that?
No, sir.
No, there's no penalties. But to advance it along, it shows we are thinking about it and do the best we can to put it in there, because people, OPEB, to the citizens out there, you know, what is that? You know, it sounds like the oil cartel, but it is the post-employment benefits. And in our town, any retirees, I believe, check my figures on this, but correct me if I'm wrong, but the town pays for health insurance. 60% of your health insurance after you retire forever. And it's extremely costly for people who retire before 65, because if you have someone who's 55 and you got to pay for their Blue Cross Blue Shield monthly, those numbers are $1,400, $1,500 a month. So, I mean, that's the arrangement the town made, and, you know, not debating that, but it is a large number. And once you get to 65, then you can get on Medicare and whatever plans that you attach to that. Town's still picking up 60% of it. So, and I don't even know if it goes on to spouses after that point. But there is a huge liability. I mean, you know, unfunded liability we have for all that.
So you can go on to Department of Revenue's DLS services and look at all of that for any community you want. It's not updated to the year that you're in, but the Division of Local Services is DLS, and they have any community you want from A to Z. You can look it up. 351 cities and towns in the Commonwealth. I spend some time on that site, actually quite often. OPEB is unsustainable, right? So we're trying to do what we can do to keep our credit rating good in case we need to do borrowing, because that's really what you need credit rating for. Other than that, you could care less if you could just buy cash for everything. The credit rating is important. We had our credit rating boosted, I think it was 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We had a credit rating boosted because of stabilization accounts gone up, and we started contributing to the OPEB trust fund, which is run by the state. We decided to hop into the state. As Mr. DeRosa said, we're somewhere, depending on what actuary report you look at, 12 million, 15 million for the town of Acushnet. It's unsustainable. No matter who wants to have that debate with me, I'd love to sit down and have that debate on how it is sustainable. If you look at the Commonwealth as a state, it's over $50 billion in unfunded liability as far as OPEB goes. So you tell me where $50 billion is coming from. And the state of Massachusetts is, believe it or not, when I use that $50 billion, and that's just OPEB, other post-employment, let alone pension liabilities, right? When you look at that number, the Commonwealth of Mass, I don't even believe is in the top 10 worst states in the nation. So, you know, we talk about bubbles. That's a bubble. When it gets pricked, it's going to reverberate throughout the economy pretty badly, because there are, unfortunately, back in the day when all this stuff was created, you know, these agreements, it was because they weren't getting paid that much, and the government said, we're going to give you this for that, we'll give you better benefits because we can't pay you that much. It was after the World War, if you do some history on it. So, and then people just keep raising it, and the costs keep going up and up and up, and salaries go up and up and up. But so it's nothing that, you know, the Board of Selectmen, town administrator, town accountant, we don't have control over that number. The only thing that you could do is change the percentage, as Mr. DeRoche alluded to. It's 60-40 in the town of Acushnet. You can look at that on DLS as well, and you'll see that, unfortunately, there's other communities that are 75-25. It's not an uncommon practice, so 60-40 is a pretty good deal. There's some that are 50-50, but, you know, that's a hell of a battle with the unions. So, and if you're taking from Peter on this end, the way the negotiations always work is, what am I getting on this side, right? You're not just taking things away, and that's something that I've done a lot of debating with unions over. Sometimes not very friendly ones, but, you know, we all have to understand there's only so much money to go around. You know, I share Sue, your sentiment with that is, you know, we got to try to be fair to everybody across the board in the community. And unfortunately, I've had that discussion with my board, where folks in other communities, seniors, are being forced out of their homes, especially near the water in Mattapoisett and Marion. I know several people over there that are, unfortunately, they've been in their homes for 40 or 50 years because of flood insurance and the things and taxes and the things of the like. They're being forced out of their family homes. So it's sad to see that when that tide will change. It's above my pay grade. But, you know, what we can do, what we should look at doing this year is, we want to make a bigger dent as far as OPEB goes. Free cash will be a decent number, but we all know free cash is not supposed to be used to balance budgets. We've done it in the past. The prior, not the one that just went by, the year before that, we used roughly $335,000 in free cash to balance the budget. Last year was $35,000. So we did a good job with not using free cash. We're not totally off that Kool-Aid yet. That's what we should be striving for as a town, as a finance committee, as Board of Selectmen, is to make sure we're not balancing budgets with free cash, but we should have a decent amount of free cash. So for articles, that's usually for capital. I think that we should put some consideration. I think the board will have that discussion on an article that we've done for OPEB before, but perhaps we could put away a little bit more than what we have and try to put a bigger dent in. Because the nice thing about it is, Mr. Delgado, as an accountant, you know about compound interest. If we can get the town to $1 million, $1.5 million, and you're earning, unfortunately, we missed some good hype years in the stock market where the S&P's returning 20-something%, not the average. The actuaries use 7 or 8%. You know, that $1.5 million would compound really quick.
Last year would have been a good year to have it.
The last
Few years.
5 years would have been good, right? So based on the returns of the S&P 500, if that's where you were invested anyway. So, you know, I think from a town's perspective, if we have this and we have excess free cash, which this year, hopefully nobody gets giddy with free cash because it's not to balance budgets, we should be doing an article, and maybe we could do a lot more than what we've done in the past. Get that balance up while we have that, because we all know what we did last year. We cut budgets because we didn't know what the state was doing with our Chapter 70. We cut that by 5%, which was roughly $410,000, and that's what we went off of, and we did a really good job. And that money is going to translate into free cash this year because we got all of that money, right? So we're going to have an artificial number this year for free cash is what I'm trying to tell the committee tonight.
Going back to what you said about articles, are you gentlemen aware of any pending big ticket expenditures with regards to articles that may be presented to us?
Mr. Chairman, do you want to answer? You want me to answer?
I'm not aware, I mean, I haven't seen anything from the departments, so I don't know what they're planning to put forward. Hey, there we go.
So what is?
We have one here, Department of Public Works.
You might be looking at like one-time expenditure trucks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
To, again,
Article
provide the
1.
service that the residents,
Yeah.
you know,
You're looking-
there'll be an ROI on it, you know.
Correct, that's what she just.
This was, all right, this is, came in right now. They put in an article, Department of Public Works, $280,000 for a 10-wheel sander plow truck. And Article 2, the sum of $50,000 for the purpose of purchasing a slide-in sander for a stone truck number 16. So that comes out to $330,000. That's what they put in their
I
article.
mean, we've talked about it. They invested in machinery to do asphalt, right? We're paving more roads, you know, even some side streets that would never get the attention. We're able to bang that stuff in-house and keep
Because
them,
we have the.
because we have the equipment
Yeah.
and keeping a lot of people happy in that regard, you know?
Oh, yeah, I think what Dan Menard's done on the DPW is great. I think he's really resourceful with everything that's been provided to that department, and I do think we get a good return on investment when it comes to that stuff. So those are typically good spending articles, I would say.
With that goes making sure he gets the money he needs for the building or the materials, the road materials, so that we can repair. Because I think one of the things we did last year was cut some of that stuff back. So we have the equipment,
Correct.
and if we can get the road materials, then we can repair that many more roads that are disarrayed.
So if I can, Mr. Chairman, comment on that. Through the Board of Selectmen, we did purchase, as Mr. Warner said, a brand new paving machine. We had an old decrepit one that we were just doing little willy-nilly golf cart paths at the golf course to try to help them out, and then it broke down and we were kind of in trouble. So I sat down with Mr. Menard and we had a conversation. We looked at what we had in Chapter 90 funding, because we averaged roughly $315,000 a year in Chapter 90 funding from the state. And we put $100,000, we actually took $100,000 from excise tax that we all know was being used to absorb inside the budget, but when excise tax originally came out, it was for what? Repairs of roads and bridges, right? And now it says, under the law, it says for any lawful purpose. And so 1.2 or 1.3, without looking at my budget books right now, I think it was 1.3, was being used to balance budgets. So last year we made the case, the Board of Selectmen made the case to take $100,000 because we're collecting in roughly 1.6. And we said we'd like to have $100,000 to complement our Chapter 90 funding, right? Get more done. So we know, just based on calculation of what we were paying out when we did Hathaway Road, Mr. Menard and I did a small analysis, and that's how we sold it. And we said, if we paid X amount of dollars to do Hathaway Road, was just over 1 mile, and it was 400 and something thousand bucks, we can actually do 3 times the amount of paving with that same 400 and something thousand bucks. And the Board of Selectmen had appropriated $100,000. If you look at DPW's budget, it's there now. If you look at excise, it increased by 100. I think we went up a little bit in road materials last year because of how much it was cut from the previous year. So
maybe it was 2 years ago, we gave some.
we did. We made a dramatic cut, and then last year we replenished that. So we have a good budget now to continue doing what we need to do, but I think as good of an effort that was by the Board of Selectmen and Mr. Menard and our DPW crew. You know, just say a roundabout number is $450,000, because road materials isn't just road materials. We don't just use it to fix roads, that's drainage and things of the like. and then we're doing a lot of drainage and things of the like, so, you know, that $100,000 for road materials that don't go very far when you're buying drainage for stormwater drains and things that we're trying to improve on, because we do have MS4 permitting that we're held accountable for by DEP, so that's some of the drainage stuff that Mrs. Minaj's trying to tackle. So, you know, that being said, I mean, you know, we, the Board of Selectmen, always try to look at when we're purchasing something for the DPW, as Mr. Wona said, a return on your investment. That's how we look at things. That's how we have to look at things, right? If we buy a piece of equipment for $250,000, what would we not get, or what would we have to pay a contractor to come in and do that work? And I can tell you something right now, based on looking at the numbers over the years, I can guarantee the taxpayers of Acushnet and this FinCom committee that we've saved millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. So the ROI that Mr. Wona's talking about, it's substantial, it really is.
We've seen that, we know that.
And there's a lot of work to do. I mean, look at our roads. I mean, that's why the board took that measure to buy the paving machine to get out there and do it ourselves. I mean, look at some of our roads. I mean, and don't just drive on the main roads. You gotta go on the side roads. You know, you live on one, I live on one, right? They're bad and they're getting worse. And once they start cracking and that frost comes and the plows hit that stuff, that road's a complete disaster. We've done some, you know, patchwork with roads where we just go in and they call it an overlay. We just throw an inch and a half of tar on it because, hey, it's better than what you had before, and, you know, that's good for 5, 10 years, 7 years, 10 years, whatever it is. It's a lot better than what you had. And then other roads, we've gone in and total reclamation, just rip the whole road right out, subgrade it, and do all of that stuff. That's where it gets a little bit more costly, but you've seen on Middle Road over here by the community center, we did a grinding, that's called milling. And we milled and we took all that product back to the town barn that we could use on other roads that we put. As a sub-base, we use that grindings as a sub-base. Again, saving the taxpayers money because we're not out purchasing that out of road materials. So, you know, I think, you know, overall we do a really good job with what small staff we have at DPW.
Well, just the cost to outsource for labor would probably be a lot more expensive now as well, if we were gonna do a lot of jobs like that instead of doing everything in-house.
That's why I said millions of dollars, because once you go out to bid, it's prevailing wage. So the Board of Selectmen were proactive and we said, why would you want to do it that way when the cost would be $100,000, we could do it in-house for $35,000 if we just need the right equipment. And we've done, and the FinCom's done, and the taxpayers have done an excellent job in financing equipment for our DPW. If you look back on the history over the last decade, it's over $1.5 million of equipment. So congratulations to everybody on that deal, because we have made a significant investment in our DPW, but it's paying off big time.
Several weeks back at the Board of Selectmen meeting, wasn't there a request for the golf course for some large equipment leasing that needed to come up to that would have hit this year?
That is
Trying to
correct.
think.
That's correct, we appropriated,
It was like 55,000 or something like
I
that.
thought it was about $130,000 in leases, I could be wrong. What did you say, $55,000 for?
It may have been for one of it, there were 2 items that they were looking at.
There was a few different things we did at the golf course,
Yeah.
and I don't recall that off the top of my head for this, for tonight. I'm sorry, I apologize for that, but we've done some outright purchasing of equipment, and we've done some leasing of equipment, so I don't have those numbers in front of me. I'm sure I have it somewhere.
I remember he was talking about leasing it, but it was, obviously it was, what they were working at was for a long time.
It was
54,125. And that was for what they had requested at the last meeting? Because I thought they had requested more, this might have been
That's for.
I don't know what you're looking
Yeah.
at.
per year, that could be it.
This is in your book. That's what they.
It was just a question that, what large items we have coming up, I remember that from the meeting.
Yeah, it was on a 5-year lease and a $1 buyout at the end.
Yeah.
Those are golf carts. The $1 buyout is only golf carts.
It wasn't a $1 buyout, it was a large machine
That was probably one of the lowest.
Yeah,
Fairway Motors.
That was one of the big lowest.
yeah.
I think we bought a few of them on that schedule. We have a schedule, I just don't have that in front of me for the schedule, but I can get you a copy of that if you'd like.
The golf course is, I believe, is doing quite well the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Brought on by
Yeah.
COVID. We were associating with that, where people only could go outside and do things. I don't know, Bob, maybe you can back me up on numbers, but it was,
I don't have the numbers on it.
yeah, it was over
No, they did.
$350,000, $400,000
Yeah.
profit.
And maybe I'm coming across wrong, I'm not saying that that was a negative, it was just
Oh,
a
yeah.
question, what big expenditures do we have that we know of, and I thought that was one of them.
Yeah, that's been paid for though, so that's already budgeted for. So we'll be all set with that in the golf committee's budget.
I have a meeting with them tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock to discuss, they want to hire some more people.
They have to.
They're understaffed.
They're really understaffed.
They want to bring up the salaries to around, well, they flux in different areas, but they need about 6 people. They've got a superintendent who's cutting grass, a very expensive grass cutter, you know, so that's not his job to be doing. Some discussion on where the golf course is going to go over the next 5 years. Where does the town want to take its asset? You know, we want to keep it the way it is, we want to try to advance it. These are all decisions that are going to have to be made in the next couple of years. But the course is doing well, at least the last couple of years. And golf in general is up about 8% over the country. So the numbers are there. How high do we raise the rates? How do we be competitive with other courses of comparable value in town? It's still one of the best values in the surrounding area. People, when I play there, people that they set me up with in the foursome, they're from all out of town. All out of town. People come to Acushnet to do that. And by doing that, they also come and spend money at Scuttlebutts or Shells or the other places. So, you know, I think the town has a good asset in the golf course. And I hope it can continue. I hope the golf keeps advancing and we keep the course going for it. So, because they are an enterprise fund. So they are generating their own income. It's not coming out of taxpayer money. And they rely on the golf committee to advance it in the right direction. As well as the management team there, Dana and Steve Timmons. So, it's been good the last couple of years. We'll see how it goes next year. There's variables on weather, you know, everything. It's a tough business trying to maintain.
Does anyone else on our committee have any questions for the board while they're here? Because I don't want to keep these gentlemen here too much longer if we don't have anything else. We'll conclude our meeting. I don't think they need to stay for the rest of our meeting. They can adjourn theirs, and then we'll talk about our future meetings coming up.
Oh, very good. So, just on the selectmen's end with future business, we have a selectmen's meeting Tuesday, February 1st, 2022. And other than that, gentlemen, any other further comments?
I don't like to thank the Finance Committee members for having us in tonight and having this discussion. I think it's a great discussion to open up the season with and hopefully send a good message out to everybody at home that's watching and other boards and committees and departments so that they have an understanding of the concerns of the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen as one general group. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, I agree. I think this was a good idea to do this. It's the first time we've actually, I think, done anything like this. So I think going forward, it'd be nice to do it again.
Excellent. Excellent. Anything we can do to help?
Thank you, gentlemen, for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. I don't know if you have anything to say.
I'm
or-
part of that.
You're part of that?
Yeah.
Whatever you have, I think you can, I don't think
Thank
you
you.
need to be here. If you don't, I think we have to sign something for you about these things and while we're all here.
Wait, one of them up there, each other sign it.
Dave, don't go too far.
Thank you, sir.
Take care.
Mike, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Everybody, take care. Anything there? Sue, thank you. Yeah, we'll see you in the future.
Nice try, man.
Just put that a little bit.
What I want to go over next is our budget schedule with all the different departments, because I know there's some changes that have been requested, and I think Kathy's going to go over that with us right now.
Before we went to detail, there are 2 departments we're missing. Technology, I know, but EMA also, so we should try to. Oh, we added it in. Okay, I.
Yeah, he put it in.
I have EM called
I agree, man.
Oh, okay. No, but on the schedule.
on the schedule.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right, so we'll hammer this out right now. Ready, Kathy?
All right, so next week, nobody's coming in.
Oh.
So next week, no one's coming in?
No, Board of Health could, I think they hadn't voted on their budget yet. They want to come in on February 9th.
Okay, well, all right, so February 9th, right now, we have tree warden, conservation, and historical, which, you know, usually we get through those relatively quickly. So
Yeah,
I think, Board of Health wants to do the 9th?
so, yeah, I have a question because some of them are like level. Usually you never had them come in if they were level, like historical.
Yeah,
So do you want them in?
you know, no, if they're gonna be level funded, like,
They don't need to be.
then they don't need to be here.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask that, like.
Okay,
Because I think that same thing, EMA, they came in last year, but he said, I don't know why I'm here, like I have a level funded budget, so.
all right, so if you wanna put it out there, that if
Okay.
anybody has a level funded budget, then we're not gonna need to, we're not gonna have any questions for them, so.
Funding or less.
Or, okay.
Oh, Eric, your head is amazing.
I can email her a list of everyone's level budgeted that I've received, and you wouldn't have to bother.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
send you a list.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Yep.
Awesome.
Alright, so going back to February 9th, we're gonna put Board of Health there?
Yep.
Okay.
Kathy, I'm assuming you're gonna send it out to us?
Yes, yeah, once I kind of, I try to do it like 2 weeks in advance.
Yeah, that's good.
That way.
What else is coming in on February 9th?
February 9th, we had tree warden, conservation, and historical.
So Park Department also couldn't make that date, they can come in February 2nd.
Alright, so for right now, on February 2nd, we had building department, assessors, and golf. So we would have to add park to that. Which I guess we could. Well,
Yeah, those should be not too bad.
Park does have, it's in your packet, Park does have a lot of changes this year.
There's what?
Park has quite a few changes this year. I know it's not common for them, but he has been holding it off for a while, so he has quite a few.
So February 2nd, so
But on the other side, assessors don't really have anything besides just union increase, so they'll be
They'll be easy.
They'll be quick.
Okay.
alright. And then the only other one we had for next week was planning.
Planning, I didn't hear back from the planner, but I know that they weren't meeting until the 20th, so I don't even know if they voted on their budget yet. Well, you said that you haven't gotten that.
I received an email from him this afternoon, he wants the electronic version, so I'll email that first thing tomorrow morning, he'll work on it then. But he might be waiting for his meeting anyway.
Yeah.
This is his
Because
first.
they have to vote on it, the
Well,
board.
this is his first go around, so he wants me to just kind of sit with him, go over it quickly, and then he'll probably want to sit with them to go over it I'm sure.
Right, so-
Nothing on the 19th.
Yeah, I was gonna say, maybe you think they'd be ready by the 26th?
I'll help, if it's okay, Kathy, when I email him the electric version tomorrow, I'll ask him what the 26th. Is that good?
Yep.
So the
Yeah.
19th is one.
Yeah, so either the 26th or, the 9th, maybe?
Yeah, because I think we can take historical out. She's not gonna really, I don't think she would.
I know last year it was level.
Yeah.
And the tree warden is not gonna take long.
Yeah.
If he does want to increase, he has one line. I mean,
Right.
he'll be quick.
So, yeah, it depends, I mean, it depends if we're gonna get a 45-minute, 50 slide deck presentation like we've done in the past. Or is it gonna be one of the super quick meetings?
Well, and sometime in the past, we've had, conservation or historical would come in and they'd have a lot of, projects that they might be doing with CPC funds. We typically have a good amount of questions for that. So I don't wanna just totally disregard, not having the historical commission come on in. Because it'd be nice to know what they're planning on doing and what they might want to do.
How much do they have in CPC?
Not sure on that.
For historical I can, if you guys, I have to sign it, sorry, I got to
All right, we'll keep talking amongst ourselves here.
Well, planning might be a
Check
different,
and see if they are gonna be doing any articles.
What was that?
I said I can check with her and see if they were gonna do any
Well,
articles.
because that would be the whole purpose of really having them come in.
Right,
Because
right.
typically they would have articles with an explanation of what they're looking to do. And that's, during the hearings is when they would present that to us, so that'd be good to know.
So I'll follow this.
So let's keep them down on February 9th. So we'll keep February 9th as is, we're just adding the Board of Health to that
Yeah.
date.
And did you move planning to the 26th, is that one? Yes.
I don't know if-
Technically.
Did we-
check it.
You're gonna find out on that.
Yeah,
I'll
It's
email
not-
him
no.
tomorrow.
He's gonna find out about the 26th.
All right.
Because council on aging library take time, but not exorbitant.
No, it's not usually that.
And animal control usually does.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, so
So I think we can squeeze planning in there, but
and
squeezing them in on
they're
the
all
9th might be a
confirmed
little
for the
bit too much.
26th.
Who's all confirmed for the 26th?
Animal control, library, and COA.
All right, so they're all set.
They're all set.
Yeah.
Okay.
Library, animal control, and possibly planning.
Kathy, you heard back from Becky from the animal, she's
Yep.
good?
Yep.
Okay, because I haven't received hers yet.
COA?
All right, so,
And just one thing, like on the calendar, you have the 16th as school vacation week, but it's the 23rd. So I don't know if you want to switch those.
oh, is it?
Yes.
Also, we kind of messed that up.
Well, she hasn't notified them yet, so we really haven't yet.
All right, so Wednesday the 23rd is the school vacation week. We had police and DPW coming in. Well, we were going to anticipate that they were going to come in.
Move it to the 16th.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then we would need police and DPW on the 16th. If they were going to need more time, then we would have to potentially switch town clerk, treasurer, board of selectmen when they present their budget. All right, so February 16th. So March 2nd, right now we have town clerk, treasurer, BOS.
Yeah, I haven't reached out to them yet.
All right,
Still
and
working my way
then February 9th, we put Old Colony Fire EMS.
March 9th.
March 9th.
Oh, sorry, March 9th. And then we save our schools for last because they usually need to go at the end. So March
That's the last, right?
March 16th. And then we reserved March 23rd and March 30th for deliberations. And if for some unforeseen reason we have to call somebody back in, we'd probably do it maybe on the 23rd.
It's gotta be finished up by the end of March, right?
Beginning of April. They said first or second week in April. It needs
First
to
and
be
second
final.
week of April.
Well, that's what we had, that's what came out in the meeting a few
Yeah.
weeks ago.
Isn't that, so what we have, like, is there like a specific date?
A deadline?
Yeah.
Because we have to have it all ready to be ready for town meeting. I don't know the exact absolute, I just know beginning of April is kind of the window. If you want a specific, like if you need a,
Like
I know it's gotta
cutoff
go
date?
to the printer and then it's gotta
Correct.
get approved and then posted so many days.
I'm thinking we might have, I think we could possibly have maybe one more Wednesday, the first Wednesday in April if we needed it, I think.
I mean, if we had to, right, we could
Right.
also have a meeting other than Wednesday.
But
No,
it,
I have
but
two
it, so
meetings.
we might have an extra week if we need it, but at least we've scheduled it out, so we're not counting on it, right?
Right.
So I'd much rather, trying to avoid what's
Yeah,
happened in the past.
Not the end of the gun. With 4 hours left to go.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, so we've,
what we also line up is EMA, so we're not doing.
oh yeah, what,
EMA is not on here.
Yeah.
I know we don't have a technology person right now, but it does need to be discussed because technology is, I think, the department that needs, it keeps increasing the costs of it, so I don't think it can be ignored. We need, if it's the administrator, the board of selectmen, I think we need somebody to discuss it. We can't just level budget it and assume it's the same.
mhm.
So maybe say that one for the end.
I was gonna say, if you need board of selectmen involved, why not bring it up while they're here on the 2nd of March?
Well, I mean, I'm sure, I don't know, are they hiring somebody, I don't know what their plan is on that. So I guess it's something maybe should be brought up when you were here. But I mean, Dave's in almost every day, I can bring it up to him tomorrow.
I could,
Well, because technology is important, right? I think you're spot on. Like, we need to make sure we've got the resources that we need to continue to function, whether it's, we need servers or we need, I don't even know,
well,
printers,
just- yeah,
computers.
it seems like the
Network,
technology
yeah,
increases.
there you go.
There's
don't add.
licenses and permits and I
Yeah.
don't know
Yeah.
what that's increasing to and.
Also going forward, when we start our budget hearings, we're gonna meet at the town hall. Not here to do the
Yep.
budget hearings, we'll go back to the town hall to do those.
COVID pending.
I did speak
Yeah.
to Dave about that, he says that, there should be a Zoom created for every meeting. So that if any of us don't feel comfortable, if this residents that like to watch it don't feel comfortable coming during budget season, that they can watch from home. So it's almost we should just be creating a Zoom automatically, so that everyone is able to attend
That
and
makes
watch
sense.
if they like safely. If that's okay with you guys.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
If somebody wants that as an option, or say somebody's under the weather and they're not feeling that good,
It's already there.
but we'd like their input, at least they could be at home, contributing to the meeting.
And I think it's nice
So-
too to have people watching and involved that maybe don't feel comfortable, just residents in general, or even employees. I think it's good to just have them here.
Yeah, I mean, I welcome it. I mean, I think more people in town should be engaged in what we do, because some of the, I'll say ridiculous chatter that I see on social media sometimes just, I don't know, just leaves me shaking my head. And I refrain from commenting on a lot of that stuff, but the thing I would say to anybody who has questions about what goes on in our town is come and participate. Come to town meeting, take the podium when you have your chance. That's your best opportunity to voice your opinion or to question us, the Board of Selectmen, all our town officials. That's your prime opportunity. Just don't do it on your phone and expect to get good answers. I mean,
Or on the town Facebook page.
yes, I mean, that would be my advice. right, so are we good with the scheduling? So next week, we're not gonna be meeting. So our first official budget hearing will be on January 26th then.
Okay. Just an FYI, I had said it before the 26th, I'm out of state for that whole week, so I will not be here that Monday. The rest of them, I don't have an issue with.
So you won't be here on the 26th?
I will not be here on the
Okay.
26th. But no issues anywhere else.
Anybody else anticipate any issues on that date, or everybody gonna be available? I mean, we don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow, but as long as we have a quorum. I know we're still short one member too, which still hasn't been addressed yet. Because I'm just under the assumption that Jackie's not coming back. So we're
We
gonna,
were mentioning that it was a term, her term might be up anyways. So I don't know, do we have dates on when people's terms are?
yeah, oh yeah, there is.
So maybe just look that up.
But potentially we're gonna have another seat, another open seat to fill. So I think, having a full complement of members is probably really good. So if there's any folks out there watching our meetings, and you have an interest in serving on the Finance Committee, contact the Board of Selectmen, and we'll welcome any volunteers. This is a volunteer position, by the way, too. We don't get compensated, regardless of some of the chatter that's out there. Our pockets are not getting lined. We are not politicians. We are here just volunteering our time to the town. So if anybody's looking to join us, you're welcome. Does anybody have any old business to discuss? New business?
I know we got the list of the liaisons and everyone was contacted.
Yes.
Was all that also sent? I know you had asked that to be sent down to all the.
To all the departments, yeah.
I'm sending it as I'm asking them for,
Okay.
just to set the hearings, that I'm letting them know who their contact is as well.
Because, like I said, in the past, with the DPW, I've never gotten any contact from them requesting to attend any kind of a meeting or discuss anything.
Yeah, I personally liaison for the library, and I actually was at the last meeting. So I've reached out on my own, just kind of say, hey, this is me, this is my info.
Years ago, there was a board, there was a Department of Public Works board,
Mhm.
and I did go to their meeting. They were basically only interested in me signing their re-election forms.
One other thing I'll bring up under new business, Kathy, is I know I wanted to reiterate to the Board of Selectmen what we were looking for as a committee from the departments with regards to budgets, as far as having like a level service budget and then another budget where they had their increases. Are the departments aware of what we're going to be
Yeah,
looking for?
I have.
They are? Okay, all right, great.
They've been
Thank you.
actually really good with the packet you have, the ones I've received. They've been really good giving level service, and you'll see two attached level service with the essentials. And they've also, 99% of them have the memo attached with explaining why they need the increases.
Okay, great. It's gonna make it a little easier for us, understanding, their budget and their request, and why they need the additional increase.
So reach out to me too though if you have any questions, because some of them I read, it's not really explaining why, so I have reached out to some of them, so if you want, just let me know if there's any missing, because I have called them, but I
Okay.
don't want to add to their budget memos, it's not my place, but I have discussed it with them.
Yeah, so we were all presented with a packet tonight that Melissa provided us. So my request to all of us members, to all your members, would be to start reviewing, taking a peek at some of the information we have before we start meeting on January 26th. So especially with regards to whatever departments are coming in, so we're prepared for them. So when they come in, we have questions. Let's make sure we get it down on that night. So then when we go back to do our deliberations, we'll be we'll be ready to go.
And who's the 26th?
COA,
26, animal control,
animal control.
COA, and library,
And planning.
Maybe planning.
and potentially planning, so we'll put that as a question mark.
As I get them in, would you like me to email them to you guys, or?
I'm sorry?
As I get the budgets in, would you like me to email them to you guys?
You can do that with me, that's fine, I'm perfectly happy.
Except for Bob St. Jean, is there anybody that the email doesn't work for? No? Okay.
Yeah, I welcome any emails.
I'll be tough, I actually like the paper too, so if you, I won't be here on the 26th, but whatever you got, I'll take.
Do you see the emails or no?
Oh, yeah, I'll see.
Okay, so then I will let you know as they're printed out if you wanna, whenever you're around, if you wanna grab them.
Okay,
That'll work out.
I mean, you can email it too, it's just,
And
this is
we'll
great.
be printed on there, I'll print them off to you, that's not an issue.
take,
Yeah, I'm not sure how soon Mr. St. Jean will be, joining us again for meetings yet, because he's, not available yet, but I think, everybody keep him in your prayers and thoughts, and hopefully he'll be back as soon as he can, because I know he'd like to be here with us. If there's nothing else tonight, do I have,
Ms. Rogers, did you look on the golf committee thing?
yes, she's listed down as a liaison.
I looked at that list that I got on email, and she wasn't listed up on as a golf committee.
Yeah, no, Kathy had printed one
Yeah, I
up, the
was.
contact
You were?
information, yeah.
Yeah, it probably,
Yeah.
it did look like it was on.
Yeah, I saw the two assignments for her listed on there.
As far as the golf committee goes, there's only five people on the committee. So they had some controversy whether if you had sent two people from the finance committee. Time.
Oh, at once?
Yeah.
All right, so
I mean,
maybe,
if both of us showed up, only one of us could vote.
oh, okay.
Oh, it's not a voting thing, is it?
Oh, yes, yeah, well, we vote on
No,
it.
well,
liaison is
no,
not
liaison,
voting.
no, liaison wouldn't vote.
Bob.
I'm on the finance, I'm on the golf committee itself.
Okay.
Right. But I would never vote.
Yeah, no, she wouldn't vote.
No, but that's what I'm saying, only one of us could vote. If
You're on a committee.
right, but you're an alternate, right?
No.
No,
I'm a liaison.
No, she's just a liaison to the committee. She would not participate in the golf committee's,
It's,
Voting.
my interest is purely financial, in what's going on.
yeah, so there's
I
no,
don't
yeah, so there's no
vote on
conflict. There
anything,
shouldn't, there shouldn't be a conflict with that, Bob.
No,
It should be
no,
fine.
No, I was just curious, I mean, I didn't know.
Yep, no, there should be no,
If sometime I could show up for a meeting, and Ms. Roger could show up, she could fill in for the meeting.
As a finance committee, but not as a golf committee member.
yeah. No, her role will just be as a liaison
Well, that's
of
what
the
my role
finance
was,
committee.
it was liaison.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
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 you're-
you're also on the committee though, the golf committee itself.
Yeah, but that's,
Right, so you have
they
like
appointed me.
Yeah, you have a dual role.
You had
Yeah,
a
but
dual role.
You have a dual role already.
Well,
Yeah, we're not, Mr. Rodriguez is not gonna be voting on the golf committee issues.
No, I'm not on your committee.
Yep. All right, so
I
we
do
got all,
have, excuse
oh no,
me,
go ahead, Bill.
this was in our packet, and while I'm thrilled to see salary ranges, grades, it's fabulous. Why are we getting this?
Several people have been asking for it, so I figured it would just be
Is
nice.
this isn't, but it's,
That's all non-union personnel.
got it, okay,
And for
thank you.
not school, I'm just,
Okay,
yes.
no, I couldn't figure it out, thank you.
You're welcome, reach out to me if you have any questions about it.
Yeah, I'll add one more thing. Melissa, thanks for doing a great job with everything under the circumstances.
I have to say is I got my
Yeah.
clerk Monday after a year of not having, she's been amazing and she did all this copying, so
Oh, you
thank
hired
you.
a person,
I'm sorry?
you hired a person?
Yeah, Monday. It's
Oh,
only been
wonderful.
3 days, but it's been amazing 3 days. Nick's been great with training her, we've been training her together, it's been.
Yes, good job, Nick.
You know,
Nobody can see Nick because he's behind the camera. But yeah, great job, Nick. Thank you.
She's doing great, yes. I'm keeping her.
For the record, I think I want to say, kudos to the board, selectmen for getting these turnover things addressed pretty quickly.
Mhm.
So I was pleased to hear that, you know, we've already made some appointments and so forth, so
Yeah, they've been,
that's all I got.
they've been doing a lot behind the scenes that
Yeah.
a lot of people don't realize what goes on to keep this
Keep
going
things
the way
rolling.
Do you
things
know
are.
where the potential administrator came from?
Yes, I do.
Carver?
Yes.
Carver?
Most recently Carver, but he's been like 15 years. But he spent, I think, like 14 years at a prior
Does
municipality.
he live in the Acushnet or is he?
He's about, I know he's about 40 minutes away, so he's not super
Right.
far, but he's not, definitely not a Acushnet. I hear amazing things about him. And it's hard in that field to not have a lot of negative light on you, the spotlight's on you, so I mean, I think he'd be a good asset. And we
He's done
start
a
him off
couple
as
of
in,
towns for a long period of time.
yeah, and he would start out as interim, I believe, and after a probation period.
They have all the leverage, you know, so. On salary for, really, if you're gonna make a move, now's the time to do it. So, hope you benefit from that somewhat. Okay.
Okay, if there's nothing else to add tonight,
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, our meeting is adjourned.
Okay.